So welcome back to our series on 2012. I've made a bunch of videos and I just made one a few days ago. There's a lot going on. As people who have seen my site and listened to some of my audio, I'm not really interested in discussing a lot of details about any particular catastrophe because a lot can be argued about it. And first of all, I believe 2012 is really a name for a process which happens to correspond calendarically to a very ancient way of keeping track of time. But what I'd like to do is just dwell on the facts, the realities that we're dealing with. Many of us live in very, very fortunate places where the weather is even decent. I live in the Hudson Valley of down upstate New York. Beautiful, beautiful area. A lot of really nice people here. A lot of good resources. Agriculture, animals, and fairly, decent weather. We get a nice storm now and then. But so anyway, I wanted to talk mainly about a process that the Earth is going through. I mean, basically the laws of entropy are at work here. I mean, if you add up the number of different kinds of problems, okay, let's put on one column the people or things that create problems, and then on the other column, the people or machines or whatever that are at work trying to fix problems. Basically what you have is it's not going to happen, So it would seem to me wise, because we see the evidence around the world that already there's huge areas that aren't getting very rebuilt. I mean, there's all kinds of problems. I mean, it takes years and years to rebuild a city like New Orleans or whatever, or some of these other places like in Haiti. I mean, it may never happen. So if the governments have less money and there's more debt, and the theory is, okay, well, hey, we're going to solve all our problems in the future, and we're going to have a lot more money in the future, it's not going to happen. So the laws of entropy are at work. Now, what can we do about it? Now, the interesting thing is that in our country, and I know this is actually true in many parts of the world right now, people have a lot of stuff. I mean, as far as survival goes, in terms of having food and clothes and shelter, I mean, I know in my area where I live, there's a lot of huge houses that are totally vacant. There's places in cities where there's huge apartment buildings that are not even being used, Somebody paid for it or losing money on it or something. And so we have resources, and we also have talent, and there's a lot of interesting, people out there now, really, really smart people with amazing tools and technology. So what I'm going to suggest is that we use a lot of our technology and all the resources like containers and things and start collecting things that we need. I mean, people might have like 10 first aid kits in their garage or something, one here, one there. I mean, there's a lot of people who have stuff that other people could use, and they're not even using it, and maybe for exchange some money or whatever, but get it where it belongs. And it might be good to get like some sheds. I mean, towns could come together in an emergency or in a head of emergency. Being proactive is always like, in always these big crises, people say, well, man, we would have known. Well, why don't we prepare so that we, can deal with stuff, instead of looking back later and say, damn, we should have prepared, how could we see this, or else believing a false hope that nothing bad is going to happen. Be prepared, the old Boy Scout motto. But I think this is a very active period right now, the next few years. I mean, the big economies of the world, like the United States, are slowly slipping. Japan is slipping. Yeah, it's going to take a while to slip all the way down because there's tons of wealth. I mean, it's not just people's garages. There's warehouses full of stuff, dumps full of stuff. So by properly organizing and utilizing what we have already, I'm sure that we can deal with most of the big things. Now, if an asteroid comes and hits us and slams in, I'm sorry. I mean, you just get lucky depending on where you live or something. But if it's just collapsing infrastructure, and we can see evidence of it frequently, and power outages, and if you look at how many people use electricity, I mean, I've been on flights, so I look down and go, holy cow. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And those are just the lights that you see, because besides all the lights, there's the motors and the refrigerators and the pumps and the TVs and water heaters and millions of other things. Just where's that electricity going to come from? We got to build plants. If the infrastructure starts to decay, if it gets too complicated, and the money and the time is like the people who have a long list of things to do. You have a long list of things to do, and over there you measure how much time you have to do them. Some of those things are not going to get done. Some of those bridges, some of those roads, some of those buildings will never be repaired. Look what happened to 9/11. We have the Twin Towers 8.5 years later. Nothing there yet. They're still arguing about it. Now imagine if a whole city like Los Angeles or San Francisco or Seattle. So that's my 2 cents here. I mean, I think it's time to really be aware, not for some woo-woo kind of stuff out of the ethers, and just look at the practical things. There are people. Our cultures have become so complicated, they're cracking at the seams. That's just the way it is. That's entropy. Now, if you go to some places, maybe in America, in your community, it might look real organized. Everything's just beautiful and all the suburbs and everything's just right. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of places in the world where it is. I mean, even New Delhi, that's a high-functioning city. There's a lot going on technologically in New Delhi. Big airport and everything. But if you look around, that's thousands of years of decay that you see. And that's essentially where a country, a more modern country like the United States is headed, sooner or later. Now, it may not be me. I've got maybe 30 years if I'm lucky left. But there are people I know personally who might live another 75, 80 years, and they're going to deal with stuff. They're going to deal with the stuff that we do, the results of what we do or don't do right here where we are. So I'm going to keep updating this segment here. There's a lot to talk about, but YouTube only allows a few minutes at a time.